Hi, today I'm sharing 5 reasons why I think you should consider barefoot shoes. First of all, what is a barefoot shoe, you may ask? Sometimes a barefoot shoe is referred to as a minimalist shoe. And until I received my first pair several weeks ago, I had no idea really what a barefoot shoe was. But I'll link that video where I give you my first impressions of my barefoot shoes at the end of this video and in the description below. So a barefoot shoe is basically allowing your foot to spread out and do its thing naturally. You have 26 bones just in one foot alone, never mind the ankle. A minimalist shoe or a barefoot shoe is made so that your move can expand and move naturally and doesn't interfere with the natural movement of the foot. Basically, they're extremely flexible and they have a really wide compartment for the toes, so your toes can really spread out and do their thing. There is no drop. So 8 millimeters, so less than 1 centimeter, or no drop from the heel to the bottom of the foot. So no high heel. There's no support and there's no cushioning, because what a barefoot shoe allows your foot to do is to strengthen and to keep the muscles and joints and ligaments all moving well, working on their own to stabilize your foot and your whole body. Barefoot shoes are meant to feel as if you're barefoot. One of the things I've heard is that if you let your child be barefoot for up to the age of 6 as much as possible, they have less chance of having flat foot as an adult. Number 1 is keep your feet strong. This is my barefoot shoes. They're well worn already. Basically, you want to keep your feet strong. And if you're supporting all the musculature in your feet, your muscles atrophy. Just like when you have a cast on your arm or leg or any part of your body, when you have that cast removed, the muscle has it's really wasted and weakened. And that's what happens with our feet. Our feet are meant to move. That's why we have so many bones with joints and ligaments. So there's lots of flexibility. And if we don't use the muscles in our feet, then they become weaker. So wearing barefoot shoes in the beginning may make your feet feel sore. It's like working a muscle that has not been worked before, because when you don't have that support in your shoes and your feet are doing all the work, it's like you're walking barefoot. So those muscles that haven't been worked in a long time in the balls of your feet, in the arch of your foot, around the heel, the ankle, may start to tire out. Number 2, if you have issues with no arch, this is something that may help you to wear barefoot shoes. Usually when somebody doesn't have a high enough arch in their foot, they're recommended orthotics or a high arch shoe. So basically then what you're doing is you are supporting the muscles in your feet and supporting that arch. So if you've given that foot such support, how is that muscle going to strengthen itself to create that arch? So one of the reasons that I think that wearing a barefoot shoe or being barefoot in the house is a good idea is because it helps strengthen your foot and helps realign your foot and build that arch that you should have in your foot. One of the things also I've noticed that a lot of people are recommending women wear Birkenstocks in the house. And I don't have Birkenstocks, but I have flip-flop kind of slides that I wear, and sometimes they're not high-heeled or anything, they're pretty even from the heel to the toe, but I find that sometimes my feet get tired and I'll take them off and I'll be standing there washing dishes, and it feels so much better just to stand barefoot. My sister is going to a clinical Pilates slash physiotherapist, and she's teaching my sister about tripoding with her feet. She's teaching her how to spread the weight between her big toe and her small toe, and then the heel of her foot, and lift her arch slightly. So even the clinical Pilates teacher is teaching her how to strengthen her feet, because she has not used footwear to provide her that, and what's happened in the end is she has weakened feet, and when you have the weakened feet, it affects your whole body, and I'll get into that in just a second. As a woman that's getting up there in the 50s, I'm thinking, why would I want to wear barefoot shoes? But it's never too late to improve what you already have. So I find that having these barefoot shoes now is going to give me a really good chance at being stronger and having better balance as I get older. Because not only are you getting stronger feet and ankles, that's exactly where you need to have the strength to improve and make sure that you have good balance down the road as you age. One of the biggest things that happens as we age is there is a lot more risk of falls. As you get older, your balance isn't as good for various reasons. And one of the reasons could be because of the lack of exercise and stability that your feet provide you. All the stimulation that is sent from the bottom of soles of our feet, which have a lot of nerve endings, all that information about how we're standing is sent in hundreds of impulses to our brain, and then our brain is sending impulses to the rest of our body, our torso, our pelvis, our hips, to realign ourselves so that we can manage without causing a fall. So when we provide all this cushioning on our feet and all this support, our feet are not sending the correct information to our brain, which in turn is not being able to coordinate the effort to support our body by maneuvering our muscles and limbs in the way that we need to support balance. It's amazing when you start looking into what our feet do and how we have kind of taken away the proper use that our feet are meant for by enclosing them in these contoured and heavily supported structures that actually ends up impeding impulses to our brain that we direly need, especially as we get older. And that's why little children, when they're learning to walk, they're on their feet. You're not putting them in some heavy-duty boots to try to help them learn to walk. No, they're in the lightest shoes possible, or even barefoot, because they need that message from the little feet up to the brain to figure out how to move the rest of their body. Anyways, if you're interested in wellness for middle-aged women like myself, I do have an email that I send out with information that I learn as we go along, and I send it out a couple times a month, and I will put the link to that in the description box. And I send out information, that may or may not be brand new, but it's things that I think that are helpful to know as we get a little bit older. Number 3 reason why you should think about barefoot shoes is it will help prevent deformities of the feet and unwanted calluses. One of the things that has been very common with women, especially as they get older, is bunions. And I know my mother-in-law, I know lots of people that have had bunion surgery, and it's painful. So there is some discussion about whether it's genetic or not, and there may be some genetic portion to it. But if you look at the anatomy of the foot, most of the time the toe, the big toe, is misaligned or malaligned, and direct contributor to that is usually because we've been putting our feet in high heels and very pointy toes. There's controversy over if shoes do cause that or if it's just genetics, but if you think about it and you look at it, it's like if you had your feet wrapped or if you had some cast on, the bones will shift into the position that they're placed, and a long-term positioning like that, I believe, will cause these kinds of misformations. Then, if you have shoes that are bugging you and rubbing you in the wrong way, calluses are meant for protection. When you have calluses because of shoes that aren't fitting correctly, then you're getting calluses that really don't need to be there, because if you were wearing correct shoes, you wouldn't have those to begin with. For years, because of being a nurse, I would wear shoes that were comfortable for 12-hour shifts. A lot of times they're very spacious, but they did have thicker soles. I don't have too much issue with my feet, but then there was also a period of time where I wore a lot of high heels because I was in medical sales, so it was suits and dresses and things and heels. And I don't wear that very often now, but I could feel the difference in my feet, and your feet do take on a different shape as you stop wearing certain types of shoes. So even though you may be older and be suffering from these things, whether it's calluses or bunions or other foot issues like flat feet, it's still a good idea to try to be barefoot in your home, or to try using barefoot shoes, which protect your feet but they don't constrict your feet, which allow the muscles and joints to move naturally and allows your feet to strengthen. Number 4 is improved balance. I already touched on this a bit, but when we have shoes that don't allow our nerves in the bottom of our feet to pick up information, when the sole is so thick that we can't feel the surface of the ground, it doesn't send the correct signals to our brain so that we can control our other parts of the body, like our torso and hips, which allow for balance. This can have very dire consequences as we get older. So it's important to protect our feet from injury. So you're not going to wear these barefoot shoes in an area where you're at risk for stepping on something sharp that will, cut you or anything like that. You also don't need to actually have a barefoot shoe that's called that. There's shoes that are things like Converse or Vans that are very flat, that mimic being barefoot. They do have a little bit more sole on them, so they're a little bit thicker, but they still have that kind of wide area compartment for your toes, and they're flat. I remember years ago we went on a trail hiking because we'd been on the motorcycle, so I had minimal stuff with me to begin with, and we went on a trail, nature by the ocean, and I was wearing my Converse, and at the time I thought, oh, these aren't good for walking on trails because I can feel everything, because I didn't have any idea, but it's actually the best thing for me. It was good to feel the roots of the trees and the rocks and the pebbles. My feet were safe and I was able to feel those, and it's good to stimulate your nerve endings, and it's good to get those muscles moving. And really, if you're in a rocky, rooty, or a terrain that's not as stable or flat, it actually makes things more interesting when you can feel it and you are getting these sensations that allow you to enjoy the experience a lot more, I think. Number 5 is, I think you're more grounded and aware of your surroundings. And when I say that you're more grounded, there's things like forest bathing and I think it's called earthing, where you're close to the earth. And I think this experience of having less on your feet allows you to really enjoy whatever experience you're having a lot more. Like for instance, when I went outside in the trails, I really did enjoy it because I was able to feel everything, and it made the whole experience a little bit more rounded because I had sensations coming not only to my ears from all the birds whistling and the birds chirping and the tree branches rustling. I could feel it under my feet, the soft earth, and I could feel the roots and the rocks. So it made the whole experience of going for a walk in nature so much more interesting. And if you're the type of person that gets bored easily when they're doing something like that, that will help you because you'll feel less bored and because you'll have all this stimulation coming to you. If you're feeling all the stimulation, I think you feel more in control. You'll have that less of that feeling of, oh, I'm going to trip or I'm going to fall, because you'll be more one with the earth. But you'll be able to feel the earth better, and you'll notice that your body's reacting to the movements a lot better. So those are my 5 reasons that I think it's important to give it a try with barefoot shoes or minimal shoes, or go barefoot at home. So watch this video next. It's my first time wearing barefoot shoes. Bye, have a great week.